Okay, here we are for video 3. All right, so in this video, I'm going to talk about tone and diction in particular. So tone and diction are very important rhetorical moves and choices that we make as writers, as speakers, as creators, designers of any kind of text, right? So the tone is like, for lack of a better way to describe it, it's like the overall vibe that you create for your text, right? So if you're trying to make your audience angry, you're going to create an angry vibe, right? You're going to try to elicit those types of emotions from your readers, right? So just as we've been reading and learning about from Everything's an Argument and talking about the rhetorical devices, right? That helps to create tone. And that's something that you're going to want to pay attention to in the text that you're analyzing. What's the tone that the creator fosters in that text? But for your own essay, this is where, where ethos, pathos, logos, kairos come into play for yourself as the writer of your essay. You want to create a tone that's going to help your readers find you credible, right? So that's the overall vibe that we're creating. And then diction, this is our word choice. So the word dictionary, it's the book full of words, right? That's where it comes from. Diction is word choice. So we want to make sure that we're using appropriate language and precise words, and words that are going to elicit or create that the tone that we're seeking to create, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at this here. So show a strong awareness of your rhetorical situation. So recall the rhetorical situation, we read about this in chapter 1. The rhetorical situation is usually demonstrated with a triangle, and on each of the 3 points of the triangle, at the top there's the writer or creator of the text, and then on one of the bottom points there's the audience of the text, and then the third point is the purpose of the text. So here you, the writer, are composing an analytical essay, which is your purpose, in an academic setting, which is your audience, which means your tone, style, and diction should reflect this specific rhetorical situation if you want your essay to be taken seriously. Okay, so you know for sure that I am going to be reading your essay, right? Now, you know about me that I'm an English professor at Long Beach City College, and so you can guess that I have certain expectations about what I think makes credible quality writing. So you're going to use your best judgment to kind of tailor your tone and diction to those expectations for me, right? As the most principled member of your audience, right? However, you want to also make sure that you're not thinking about me as the only member of your audience, right? You have a wider potential audience that includes your classmates. It includes people who are interested in rhetoric and the rhetorical devices. It includes people who are interested in the text that you're analyzing. It includes other people who might have some sort of stake in your essay in some way, right? So whatever the case is, whoever your audience members are, we're in an academic setting, and so we need to understand that, right? So we want to make sure that we're crafting our tone and facilitating a tone that's going to help our readers find us credible as writers, right? So one way that's going to help you with this is avoid using first-person pronouns and descriptors such as I, me, my. Now, I'm not trying to suggest that you cannot ever use I in an essay. That's not true. You can. And in fact, you probably have read many essays where the writer used I, and that didn't make it a bad piece of writing, of course. Of course not. That's silly. However, a lot of times when we use first-person pronouns, we put the emphasis on ourselves. I think this, I chose this, I did this, I. And so the reader is focused on you rather than the text that you're analyzing. And so I want you all to avoid using I, me, my in this essay. Okay? And this is just to help us practice this. And so one way to kind of avoid this is do not narrate your process to your readers. And so narrating is when you're kind of describing what you're doing. I am recording a video for my English 3 students at Long Beach City College, right? You all know that I'm doing that, but I don't need to narrate it to you. And the same is true in your writing. You don't need to narrate your process. So you don't need to say things like, I chose this text because, or when I first watched this commercial, or as I have been working on this essay, or the more I look at this, or I wanted to choose a text that speaks to blah, right? So avoid that type of narrating in your essay. So you cut those types of things out, and I'm going to show you how to avoid that in a moment. One thing that's a strong rhetorical move is to use we in place of I or you. Okay, so instead of saying I, you say we. I'm like, oh, okay, so now nobody's singled out specifically, but we're all grouped together, and it's just a much more effective method of kind of, appealing to your audience without directing it exactly to or directly to your audience, and without including yourself specifically in there. So some examples. When we first witnessed the actors in the scene. Oh, okay. Or our first impression of this speaker. Or before we can discuss this, we need to understand blah, blah, blah. Right? So this right here, it's just putting it into the into first person plural, right? So it's all of us as a collective, and so that's a stronger rhetorical move. But generally speaking, don't narrate your process and don't use these first person pronouns in this particular essay. Now, something else that you're going to want to pay attention to in this essay, because you're trying to make sure that you are found credible by your readers, you want to make sure that your diction is elevated above the conversational level to build your credibility as a writer in this specific rhetorical situation. Okay, so what that means is one of the really great things about writing, one of the really cool things about writing is that we have the benefit of time. Whereas in speech, if we're speaking, we don't have the benefit of time. So, think about it this way. If you're having a conversation, you're talking to somebody and you misspeak, you say something incorrectly, or you say something and you can tell that your partner, whoever you're speaking to, doesn't understand what you're talking about or whatever it might be, you have to actually say more speech. You have to say, I'm sorry, I misspoke. Let me say it again in a different way. Or, oh, let me bring up an example. Oh, I can tell that you don't get this. And you can also ask your partner or whoever a question. But in writing, we don't do that. In writing, we just say, oh, shoot, you know what? I wrote that sentence and it's not very precise. Let me see if I can craft the sentence in a better way, because you have the benefit of time, right? You don't actually go and write, oh no, that last sentence I just typed, I should have typed it this way. Let me start again. And you're all typing that out in your paper. You don't do that, right? That's not how writing works. And so with that, because writing is a different mode of communication, it's different than conversation in a lot of ways. We want to make sure that we're elevating our tone and diction above the conversational level. So keep in mind that I am a member of your audience. I am an English professor at Long Beach City College. I'm not your homie who, your best friend that you can just, you're just riffing with, while you're waiting for class to start, right? If that were the case, that the way that you would speak to your friend is very different than how, and also the way that you would write to your friend is very different, right? So this is a different situation, and we need to make sure that we're keeping our rhetorical situation in mind. And so we want to elevate it above the conversational level. So avoid overly informal or casual language, such as slang, text speak, or conversational phrases. So some examples of things to avoid in your writing. Gonna, going to, spell it out, right? The letter U in place of the word, Y-O-U. Through as an abbreviation, even putting in LOL. These are things that creep into our writing. Using well as a transition. Well, let me tell you, that's appropriate for conversation, but not in writing, right? In this specific rhetorical situation. Or, do you know what I mean? Or, right, in my opinion, honestly, personally, on the daily, back in the day. Like, all of these are phrases and words and, you know, abbreviations and spellings that we are fine to use in conversation. They're fine to use in informal writing situations. But in this specific rhetorical situation, they're going to damage your credibility, right? So we want to make sure we're building our credibility. All right, final thing. MLA format. So this is something that you probably learned in English 1 or a previous English course, but if not, don't stress out. These are the kind of basic parameters for MLA format. And I've included MLA resources in the module so that you can take a look at that. But we want to make sure that we have a heading, so that includes my name, or I'm sorry, includes first your name, and then includes my name, the course English 3, and then the due date of the assignment. And then you want to have your header with the page number. That's your last name in the top right corner of your document. 12-point Times New Roman font, double spacing of the entire document with no additional spaces between any items. So no extra space between your heading and your title, no extra space between your title and your first paragraph, no extra spaces between any of your paragraphs. MLA calls for double spacing of the whole document, no extra spaces anywhere. So that's what you want to do. And then 1-inch margins on all 4 sides. So not 1.5 inches, not 2 inches, not even 3 inches. It should be only 1 inch, left, right, top, bottom. And then for this essay, because we are going to be, we're analyzing a specific text, we do need to include a works cited page with the citation for that specific text. All right, y'all. Well, I know this is a lot to take in, and that is partially why I broke it into 3 videos, so that you can kind of break this up a little bit and refer to specific sections as needed. However, if you have any questions about anything expressed in any of these videos or this document, please let me know. Send me a message on Canvas. I'm happy to respond. All right, y'all. I'll catch you later.